Hi, my name is Fred Barricooker. I'm the team librarian over here at the Highland Square Branch at the Akron Public Library. If you're watching this, it's probably because you picked up a kit kind of like this over at the over here at the Highland Square Branch. Either that, or if you've gone down a really weird hole on YouTube. Either way, welcome. What we're doing today is playing around with a process called electro etching. This is where you can make a permanent mark on any piece of metal. Really, it works really well with steel. That's what we're going to use. But you can also use it with brass or aluminum, most things. Okay, so what we're going to do first is take a look at what is actually in this kit that you got. In addition to the links for this video and the help session that we're going to do later this month in September 2020, you should have a shiny piece of metal. This is just a piece of steel that has been kind of sanded so it's clean, been rubbed with nail polish remover to get rid of all the grease and stuff, and then painted with nail polish so that the painted part will be waterproof. You'll see why later. You should have also one of these. This is a connector for a 9-volt battery. You have the red, which is going to go on the positive end of the battery, and the black, which is going to go on the negative end. And here you have a battery, 9 volts. We have another piece of steel. This is the same kind of steel as this metal. It doesn't really matter so much which metal you use, but make sure these two pieces are the same. Okay, you also have two of these. These are some really awesome paper clips. I love this kind of paper clip because you can build all kinds of things with them. We're going to use them to attach these electrodes to the pieces of steel that we're going to use. And last but not least, you should have something like this, a piece of sandpaper. This is so we can clean it up at the end and see what we're looking at, okay? Now, let's get started. A couple things you're going to need from home. I've got some water. This is just tap water. Some salt. Doesn't have to be fancy sea salt or anything, just any kind of salt. I like sea salt because it doesn't have the iodine in it. If you have iodine, it turns everything red, which is kind of cool too, but I don't want to do that. So we're going to use sea salt. I have a stirrer and just a container. Don't use a really nice container for this. Don't use, like your mom's fanciest cookware or anything like that. I mean, you should be able to clean it up, but you'll probably get some people mad at you if you do that. So I'm just going to go with this cheap piece of Tupperware. Okay. Now, the first thing we need to do is make a design that we're going to etch, right? We're going to make etching, which is a permanent mark on a piece of metal. What it is technically going to corrode into the metal a little bit and actually eat in. So there's not just an image on the metal, it's actually like somebody went through and dug a channel in the metal. And that's what the image is going to be. So we're going to put it on this. I am going to draw mine just with a Sharpie here like this. It doesn't really matter so much how you do it. You don't even have to draw anything beforehand. But if you want to, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to draw myself a little happy face here. Now, okay, but I have my little design. I'm just going to have this, and we're going to make it permanent into the metal, right? The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this knife. This is a craft knife. You can actually use anything to scrape. You can use a fork, your brother's braces, just anything really that will scrape the nail polish off this piece of metal. So we're just going to go through and do this. It'll take a minute here, and we'll just see what we wind up with. Okay, so done playing with knives. I have my little design here, just a simple happy face. When you scratch it off, be careful to get as much of the nail polish off as you can, because that's going to block this process. So you want these nice clean lines. I like to make lines that are kind of thick, so just easier to see. Another thing that might factor into your designs is what we're actually doing is forcing the steel to corrode. And so it's actually going to eat into the steel, which if you think about it like, okay, so if you've got your piece of steel like this, right? You can think about the lip or the nail polish is a layer over it, okay? So when you take off that polish, what it does, it starts to eat away the steel, right? But if you leave it go for long enough, what's going to happen is that in addition to, well, okay, so the corrosion is blocked um, from the nail polish, but in this place where it's not blocked, eventually it's going to start eating at the sides too, right? So your line is going to get wider and wider. Bear that in mind if you're drawing something that has really fine detail, because it might not work out the way you want. Okay, so what we're going to need to do, we've got our design. I'm going to take my piece of Tupperware. I'm going to just pour some salt into the water. I'm going to take my piece of steel and just put it in here so I can see how deep the water needs to be. Now the reason is I don't want to, I want to submerge the whole design part, but I don't necessarily want to put the electrodes actually in the water. It'll just work better that way. So I've left a little bit of a gap. You can see when I attach things, I'll be able to keep the actual electrodes out of the water. So after that, what do we need to do? Well, we need some salt. Okay, so I'll take this back out. It doesn't really matter how much. You don't have to be real careful with measurements or anything like that. Just get your salt in there, get it good and dissolved as best you can. So again, this isn't anything real fancy. You can use table salt. That's probably the easiest to use. So let's see where we are. I'm just gonna. Yeah, that's kind of salty. If you have warm water, the salt will actually dissolve faster. I have cold water, but that shouldn't make too much of a difference. Okay, so we have a battery clip, right? And what I'm going to do with this, the red is the positive end. What I'm going to do is use this fancy paper clip, like so, to attach this electrode to the piece of steel. Now, if you look really careful, the electrode, it has a little piece of metal sticking out, right? That's the part that actually carries electrical current. So you want to make sure that specific bit is touching the bare steel on this. This is why I've left a corner blank, right? So that the electric from the battery can travel through this and make the reaction go. Okay, so I'll put that back in there. Oops. Well, there we go. Okay, the other end, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clip it onto this other piece of metal, okay? So, same deal, just like that. And I'm going to put that piece of metal over here. You don't want the pieces of metal to touch each other. That part's important because otherwise the electricity goes straight through and doesn't actually do anything with the reaction. Okay, so now we've got our 9-volt battery. I am just going to attach it to the battery connector like so. You don't have to worry too much about hurting yourself with this. It's only 9 volts, which isn't really enough to do a lot of damage. Okay, so what we should see, and you can see it kind of working here, you can see some bubbles, which means that the reaction is going. You can't really see too much over here. That's okay. We're just going to let this sit for a bit. the longer you let it sit, the deeper the etch will go. We're just going to see what it does. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes now. I just want to check and see where things are at. I've just got a paper towel with some fresh water on it. And let's just pull this out and see if we can see anything yet. Now, I should mention, this is kind of a slow process. You're not going to see immediate results, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that it's not working. You can see on mine, the metal looks maybe a little bit darker. I'm just going to wipe this so that it's clean again. The reason is, once that corrosion builds up a little bit, it stops the reaction from happening. So it doesn't hurt to periodically just take it out and give it a wipe down. And that's done. I'm just going to flip it back up here. Well, and put it right back in the bath. Oops, got carried away. Let's see if I can use my fork to kind of. There we go. The metal doesn't have to be completely in there. That other steel piece, just so some of it's in. That should work. And let's just give it a while longer. I want a nice deep etch, so we'll keep this going as long as we can. Okay, it's been about another 10 minutes or so. I just want to check in again. As you can see, the water here has gotten kind of gnarly. You can see there's still bubbles on this electrode here, so you can see that it's still doing its thing. I'm just gonna wipe the corrosion off real quick again and get it back in. Like I said before, I want to get this as nice and deep as possible. Of course, you don't have to do that. A little bit of experience can teach you how much you need to do. And we'll just keep at it. Well, okay, so it's been about another 10 minutes. I'm just waiting to see what this does. You can see I changed my water. The water's getting a little gnarly. You don't really have to change it, but it makes me feel better about myself as a person. So let's just see where we are. I'm going to take this out again. Just give it a real quick wipe. It may not look like much, but if I run my finger over it, I can feel the dip. Like I can feel where it actually has eaten some of the metal away. I'm just going to put this back in because I want to see how far we can take it. And so we'll, get it in there kind of good. And see what we can wind up with. Okay, so it's still going strong. It's been about 40 minutes or so, all told, I mean. So I think it's about time to just pull this out and see what we wound up with here. So, don't worry, the water and stuff, it won't hurt your hands. I wouldn't drink it, but it's not like it's real acidic or anything. Okay, so this is the design. Doesn't look like much yet, but I'm going to take some sandpaper and see if I can gently scrape off the rest of the nail polish. Now, be very gentle with this because you don't want to scratch out your design either if you get too deep. And let's see. This is going to take some work. Okay, so you're probably finding that this takes a little bit of elbow grease, right? That's a couple minutes with some sandpaper. That's the most gentle way to do it. If, like me, you enjoy cheating, you can also use nail polish remover. Of course, we've got nail polish on the metal, so that makes perfect sense. I'm just gonna kind of pour some on here. You may not have this at home. That's okay if you bring your project into the branch. I will have some nail polish here that we can use. And all right, this is looking really good. Now, If you can see, well, do you see how my smiley face still has some nail polish remover in it? That is because it didn't wipe off because it's in this little groove, right? We carved a groove into our metal, and that is how you know this worked. I'm gonna kind of do my best to clean that out of there, but really the point has been made. A little bit more elbow grease could do that. If I wanted to darken it, I could go over it with like a Sharpie or something, and if anybody went to rub it off, they wouldn't be able to because it would be in that groove. It is now permanently marked. I can run my finger across there and feel the dent. It's got a nice groove in there, which is exactly what we wanted. You can do this with any design. If you mess up once, remember, you got another side here. If you want to do it on your own, you don't really have to use nail polish remover or nail polish. I just did that because it's nice and waterproof and cheap, and it's something that I could put in a kit. You can actually use just about anything. If you get really fancy, you can make computer stencils with vinyl and stuff like that. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to do something real quick. But this is a neat skill you can use to do all kinds of things. It is electro etching of metal, and that should get it. If you have any snags, we have a Zoom session for questions and answers coming up September 16th. The link to that and password should be in the kit along with all this stuff. Great. Thanks for watching.